Hello guys, this is my solo camp capping, almost guide style thing. I'm just going to commentate on how it plays through. So first of all, we start at the Borderlands. We're going for the red water lowlands. I'm actually invading someone else's Borderlands at the moment, but this is just again, it's a concept video that shows you how to capture all these camps solo as an engineer, and I get to talk through the build that I'd previously put up and talk through it in action. And you'll see that I spam a lot, but actually there is a weird method to the madness that I am throwing out there quite hectically. So first of all, here we're going to be pulling behind. What I want to do is, because I'm going to sit in bomb kit initially, I start off in pistol and pull with the pistol to get myself into combat to get that 3 stacks of might. Now, I overcharge the flame turret at the start to try and get those misses off. Then I follow it up by a smoke bomb, and then I start running around in circles. Now, I put the glue bomb to keep the pressure off myself, and as you can see, my health isn't dropping at all. I did drop my supply crate as well, so all my turrets are down, and I'm just putting out maximum pressure. Keep switching my kits, keep the pressure up, and these guys go down pretty quickly just from cleave damage. As you can see there, because he was swinging at my turrets, he got knocked down quite happily and interrupted his heal. So there, it was a lot of just everything in one spot, because I had to get this quickly because I knew there was a bunch of roamers around. So I used my supply crate. Normally, if you feel that you don't need the speed, you don't have to use supply crate and you can save it for something else, but it is a good way of getting camps quickly, and speed when you're on your own is definitely the advantage. So this one was camped pretty quickly, pick up some supplies as always, and then move on. Here I fast forwarded it because it gave me a little bit more time to talk about what we were doing. As you know, this turret build's pretty effective for soloing camps, and it's pretty good just in general. We get to this camp, and as you can see, I'm jumping across the roofs. I do something stupid here. I pull too early. What you're supposed to do is pull just as you land here with a static shot, but I pulled on the roof and no one came in. But that's a good way of getting to the other side, to where you want to be if you're coming from the other side. So here, stack up on this corner, and I forget that the dollies do a massive knockback, and actually they managed to clip me a couple of times. But then what I do is I start knocking them back and keeping the control up to keep the dollies out of play as much as possible, because their knockbacks will make the difference. And here you can see that I'm now putting the confusion on and the pressure out and just getting the cleave damage out as much as I possibly can, getting some relatively high numbers, and again quite happily taking these guys down without really dropping too much health. The stupid thing was I let the dollies hit me early, and I had to compensate for that afterwards. It was a bad one. Now, Astral Home, again, we're just going to play the concept of trying to keep as much damage in an area as possible and get all the enemies together. So what we do here is we pull behind this pillar, and you see I static shot, but for some reason it decides to shoot at the floor because it says obstructed. So again, the first thing I do is drop my flame turret to get the mic stacks. I would have been in combat already, so hopefully I would have got some more, but I think it bugged out. That's where you go for pistol first. And as you can see, I'm just strafing back and forth to get as much damage on these guys as possible, letting them cleave my turrets to spread the load a little bit. And I'm focusing mainly on the scouts because the scouts don't seem to be wanting to come in properly. Now this is why I've picked this one, and this one's going to last a little bit longer, is because I actually killed this guy pretty quickly. And this camp in particular, the upgrade Courtmaster actually sits slightly outside the camp. Now, this is a useful tactic because I don't want to pull the Courtmaster now, because I didn't realise afterwards until it was dead that he was still alive. And as you can see in the background, if I wait for my camera to go back around, you'll see in the background the Courtmaster, I think I highlight her. She's actually just sitting there just outside the area, but I'm still capping the area. If I pulled her, she'd run into the area and it would take more time for me to cap this point. So I actually just leave her alone. I get quite a way through, and then unfortunately a dolly spawns. Now I still stick with my original plan, which is to not engage, because I don't want to pull the Quartermaster in. It's probably quicker for me to have left, it is in fact quicker for me to have left the dolly to leave. And once the dolly's out of the area, I get the cap, and then I go and get the dolly. But it just saves you that little bit of extra time, and that's what you want when you're solo roaming. You want the time. The more time you got the more time you take to capture a camp, the worse it is. So you have to try and judge which is the better option, really. And here, as you can see, I killed a dolly. Now, here's something bad happened. I was going to show you how you can stealth your way in here by just stacking smoke fields, doing a load of blast combos, which you see here. You can use it for might stacking and healing, and I get myself quite a decent amount of stealth, and I just run in. So I run into the camp. Could have possibly gone a little bit further, but what I've done is I've put myself in a very bad position. I didn't think there was many more roamers on here. I wasn't outnumbered. The outnumbered buff had gone for me at this point, and I thought I had an advantage. And as I got in, just as I dropped stuff, I started doing damage, and then I get attacked by an upscale elementalist and a guardian at the same time. Now, I make a bit of a silly mistake here. I think that the Guardian's probably going to be my bigger threat, so I decide to try and focus in the group still to get all the sort of NPCs down as much as possible, which is a good tactic in the end, because the Elementalist isn't that strong, being an upscale, so it wasn't doing that much damage. Had it been not being an upscale, it'd probably been a completely different story. But managing to get the cleave damage off on those people and avoiding those circles by just rotating round meant that I didn't have to worry. At that point I realised it was an upscale and started putting the pressure in with a pistol. Now the pistol's really good for pressure because you've got the burst and poison to slow down their healing, as well as confusion. So I've got the Elementalist low and I'm chasing it just to try and keep the range. Again, hit it with a poison, 2000 damage, and as it starts to run away, I chase it down that final time and get it down. Now at this point, I switch to my bomb kit and use my bomb cleave to heal myself as well as do damage to him while he's down so he can't get back up. Now, the Guardian here is putting in quite a bit of pressure, but my big old bomb I managed to put in his area, and he's coming in to attack me. I'm knocking him down and he gets very, very low. Fortunately, I didn't realise how low he was because he teleported away behind me. I could have finished him, and as you see there, he manages to get a couple of blocks off and gets back and decides to run away. They don't actually come back, so I managed to capture this point quite happily. Had they come back, I would have been in a much worse position, having the fact that most of my turrets were on cooldown, and I didn't have a supply crate. Now, I obviously turned the tide of that battle quite happily in the end because I realised it was an upscale, but that's what you've got to remember to look out for, is look out for the easiest target. It's the best way of winning a world v world situation. So here we're coming into, well, one of the south camps, and I do a really stupid manoeuvre here. I try and dodge through and then realise I don't have nearly enough dodges to get through. What I'm trying to do is get them all stacked up as possible. The biggest threats, surprisingly, are the scouts, because they can cripple you and blind you and they reduce your damage significantly. Here you can see I'm just getting everyone into the same corner, knocking them around and just doing as much damage as possible. I'm not taking enough damage that it's becoming an issue. That's due to the fact that I'm putting out so many blinds and so much pressure that they're all healing at a very similar time. Those knockbacks can instantly remove all of that healing, and it's quite an easy cap. Here there's multiple places you can hide because you've got the whole back line to hide behind. It's a really good spot for a nice easy cap to start with, very easily soloable. So here we actually find that it's quite a nice, slow, calm, easy cap, not a lot of problems, so I just literally wait around for it to cap through. Now here what happens is I will get attacked pretty soon afterwards. I believe this is the bit, because there's an engineer running around outside and he's condi spec'd. Now this is what most engineers will run in world versus world to counter you, and the problem is with that build, it's very strong, but it can't put a lot of pressure into you because of the way you're built. Now, it can pressure you if you stand still, and obviously being a turret build, you want to wait for an area that you can control. but it's better to not. It's a little bit weird because it looks like he's gone more power than Condi, and I think he is going for a power build rather than Condi build actually. Think about it, but the Condi pressure that he can put out is significant. What happens here is I just sort of stand around and decide to try and work out what he's going to do. He pulls the two NPCs, which I think is a good time to try and take advantage. Unfortunately, my supply crate was on cooldown. Had I got the supply crate in, it probably would have been a completely different story. But you can see I'm putting reasonable amount of pressure in, even though he's got the lemongrass soup, which means that my condis aren't sticking to him. But luckily I'm not condi built, so although my condis will be doing a little bit of damage, they're not going to be doing huge amounts because they're going to fall off quickly. But I've compensated for that by being celestial, which means I've got the power to back it up, which means that he's actually taking a decent amount of damage here and he's having to leave. Now up here you can see I just sit down and I eat a load of conditions stupidly. It was a really bad move for me, but I'm just keeping the pressure on. I want to take damage at this point. As you can see, I had retail and protection up at the same time. That means I'm putting out a significant amount of damage, so I wanted to stand in his AoE as much as possible to put pressure back on him. I've reflected his net shot there. I don't know why it reflected in such a weird angle, but there seems to be some weird sort of like, I don't know, travel issues with that. I could have reflected back and caught him, but for some reason it went off slightly to the side. I dropped supply crate at a bad time there. I should have saved it for a more like opportune moment. But you can see I'm just hitting him for not huge amounts of damage, but just enough with my pistol to keep him from being able to put the pressure into me that he wants to put into me. Now, being bombs, I've got to try and pin him down, and he's an engineer, which means I've got no chance of doing it. Because if he wants to, he can get out of this fight as quick as I can get into it. So, really, I'm having a much harder time than I should have. What happens here is actually I decide that I'm gonna try and avoid taking any stupid damage, and I noticed that another player is coming in to help. It's a thief, and thief again is a very difficult class to deal with. It's mainly due to the fact that they're condition based, so I knock the engineer off to give myself a little bit of a break. Now, the thief decides that it's going to shoot from below, and what I actually don't notice is there is a third player coming in, and it is another thief, and it is legendary equipped, so it's probably pretty powerful. What actually happens is you can see I'm putting the pressure into the engineer, and again I'm getting a little bit low, so I just knock her off the edge. And then what happens is as they both decide that they're going to come up, that's when I think I take my opportunity to get down and go back. Now I put the big old bomb there because I'm hoping that while they're chasing me they'll get stuck. It doesn't happen. I managed to get away from that turret, and as I get in I realise that I'm just trying to heal, and then all of a sudden I get bombarded by two players putting a lot of pressure into me. They're knocking me around, they've got the control. Now they have the huge numbers. I'm trying to play tactically with the boss, but that condition damage that is coming onto me is so strong, and the fact that it's 3 thieves at this point makes it very, very difficult. Well, 2 thieves and an engineer means that the damage is significant. So I actually go down and I decide to try and take them out with like a final blaze. If I had another player with me, I could have kept the pressure up on the engineer a little bit better, but I didn't. Here's the last camp that I'm going to be doing. It's in EB. It's the mill, I think. I'm really bad at knowing where all the places are. But what I've done here is the dredge are in this area as well, and the dredge aren't friendly. So I pull off the group by going behind this pillar. I came straight through from where the Dolyak is now into this corner and managed to pull the group into here to take down most of the guards. The dredge are the hardest things you will have to face in World vs World other than players. The reason is, as you see, I drop a bomb to show you, they're immune to blinds. That is a nightmare. Not only that, they do a huge amount of knockdowns. They put buffs on themselves to keep themselves going. So what you have to do is you have to play them at their own game and try and knock them back as much as possible. This is where accelerant pack turrets come in. You put them down as much as possible. Knocking back the enemy as you're blasting in your might fields to give yourself an advantage. It's a long drawn out fight, and it will be, mainly because they just launch you and dodge you. They get regen, they get protection, they got swiftness to chase you round, they get might. They've just got everything they need to keep themselves alive in the most awkward way. So when it comes to the dredge, just think about as much as possible trying to kite them. As you see here, I'm not doing a particularly good job of kiting them, and I keep dropping my smoke bomb to try and stealth myself out, but as I'm doing it, I'm accidentally doing damage at the same time. It's a really bad play from me. I understand how noobish it is, but I'm trying to give myself that just second to regen a little bit of health, give myself some composure, be able to drop something out. The fact that I've been dazed there as well stops me getting more abilities out. Again, it's just constant knockbacks, constant pressure from them that means that you'll be in trouble if you were to fight them with the other guys. As two separate entities, they aren't particularly strong, but together, a camp and dredge are almost impossible to beat for the engineer. So finally, we're going to be going into what I like to call the reset round, which means that I've taken so long to kill these dredge from doing really silly things and not actually pulling it to the Doliac to give myself that little bit of extra time to kill it, you know, because it would have just been cleaved down with those guys. Again, it knocks back, so it was a bit of an odd choice that I didn't take it at the same time. But here we go, I get knocked down again, and just as I kill it, or start to kill it, we end up seeing a veteran spawn, and it decides that I think it's just a normal veteran soldier, so it's not too bad. You know, you can deal with this. You can, you know, a little bit of sensible play, put a little bit of power in, and you'll be able to kill it. But what you've got to remember is that although it's weak, what's going to happen is you've killed things at a roughly the same time, so they're all going to start spawning at about the same time. That's a nice little trick there you saw with the static shock. If you can get it to hit the supply line as well, it'll bounce and stack up more confusion for you, which is quite a handy little trick. It gives you those more bounces. Stupidly, I jumped out of the circle to kill that Doliac, and again, I think I probably would have just got enough ticks up had I not done that by the time the veterans spawn. In fact, yeah, I definitely would have. There we go. So I go in, I just decide to do the static so he can't do his immobilize and stun, which he does still manage to get off. And then I just sit here. When the veteran scout spawns, I move on to the veteran scout and sit on him because the other guy will chase you. He's melee, he's not range, he will keep on you, and you'll be able to keep the pressure on him while putting damage in. If you have to choose between who you're going to fight, always go with scouts first. They seem to be the stronger of the two. As you can see, they're doing a reasonable amount of damage to me, and it's an annoying thing because they can blind. I get fed up, decide to drop a supply crate on them because I'm just getting fed up of all the time that it's taking me to kill these guys. So I kill one, then go back to the other, just finish it off, and then eventually camp this point. It's quite bad play from me, really, but it got the job done. So pretty much that's the end of that. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate all the feedback that you guys have been giving me recently. So if you've got any more, leave it in the comment section below. Comment, rate, subscribe, you know, all the basic stuff that helps me out, and I will see you next time. Hopefully I'll be having a PvP style video for you. Bye for now.